938 Live. This is Talkback.
Is Singapore over-regulated? Do we as Singaporeans want more rules, more governmental involvement in seeing to even more areas of our day-to-day lives? Some might say we're relying too much on the government to solve our problems. Which areas do you think absolutely need government regulations? Which ones do you think are best left to us to navigate ourselves? A writer to the Voices section of the Today newspaper, Eugene de Rosario, recently asked if everything in Singapore really needs to be regulated. Now, he mentioned several examples. The recent ban on shisha, reports that larger foreign worker dormitories may soon need a license to operate, and the Land Transport Authority exploring regulations for third-party taxi booking apps. On foreign worker dorms, he said that he wonders why another layer of bureaucracy is needed when safety and other necessary regulatory requirements can actually be added from time to time. He feels licensing will not change the fact that operators must adhere to all the regulations that are already in place and future ones. On regulations for third-party taxi booking apps designed to address potential issues or disputes that customers might have with drivers, Eugene said, leave the companies to the natural supply and demand forces to find their own brilliant solutions, rather than butt into this organic process within the taxi industry in appearing to protect customers and drivers. I'm quoting him here. He says, not every nook and cranny needs the authorities' serious attention. So, are you one of those people who feels the way Eugene does, or do you think, yes, those government regulations are good in practically every aspect of our lives? Right. What is the role of the private sector, civil society, even you, the individual, in addressing some of the issues that we face as a society? Which areas do you think absolutely need government regulations? Which areas do you think are best left to us to decide for ourselves? In the case of shisha, for instance, I've been saying this for the past few days. Perhaps public education on the dangers of shisha smoking would be enough, and let people make informed choices about their own health.
Actually, Lee Shui Shui, who wrote in the Today newspaper Voices column, said a stronger society emerges when people act on moral duty, and not only because of the consequences of the law. Further than that, recently parents who were alarmed that an unscrupulous math tutor managed to enter the industry again called for the Ministry of Education to regulate the industry. So shouldn't such things be left to parents to investigate themselves, you think? What is our role in ensuring that goods and services that we pay for are right and reasonable? Now, it seems in many areas of life, some of us expect the authorities to step in. There are, of course, key areas where we reasonably expect the government to take the lead, for example, education, housing and healthcare. But much of this, such as universal healthcare insurance, might be welcomed. But where do we draw the line? Right? Even when it comes to how we spend our money, it seems regulation is needed in the form of housing loan curbs, for instance, to ensure that we don't overstretch our finances. Are we so dependent on the government to solve our problems that we might lose the ability to do so for ourselves? Will we become a less resilient people as a result of all of this over-regulation? And are we aware of the implications of more government regulation? For example, are bigger bureaucracies necessarily more efficient? And won't we need a bigger bureaucracy? I mean, think about it, right? A bigger bureaucracy to administer all these new rules and regulations and laws that we are asking them to set? Wouldn't all this cost more? Yeah?
So are you one of those who expect the government to take care of everything in spite of the fact that it could cost more, it could be rather inefficient? Perhaps we need to be a little bit more judicious about what needs intervention and what doesn't. Tell us which aspects of life in Singapore you think would do better with government intervention. Are you willing to take on greater personal responsibility in some areas? I think that many would say that, okay, I really appreciate that the government gets involved in public housing, that the government also wants to get involved in providing healthcare. That's all well and good. But every little thing that we do, the government means well, but I think at some point we are also starting to expect the government to help us out when we're stuck in a jam. But ultimately, deal with it yourself at some point.
Well, the government has been encouraging us to increase the population for people to have babies. That doesn't seem to be working very well. You know, even with all the incentives. But tell us, 669-11938 is the number, and if you need more regulation? Tell us. If you think we don't need regulation, also tell us. We'd like to hear from you in just a while right here on 938 Live.
Is Singapore over-regulated? And some of you, I know, perhaps want more rules. You want more government involvement in seeing to even more areas of our day-to-day lives. Others say, really, perhaps we are relying too much on the government to solve all our problems. We're talking about things like the recent shisha ban. Recently also, when an unscrupulous math tutor managed to enter the industry again. A lot of parents called for the education ministry to regulate the industry. Shouldn't some things be left to us to deal with ourselves? Call us on 669-11938. Sarah joins us now. Hi, Sarah. Good morning.
Morning, Dorothy and Andre. No, I don't think there's over-regulation, but I do have a few suggestions because look at the handphones. It's true, I ever sat in a bus in a school bus, okay? And the driver was actually using the handphone, holding it to his ear as he drives. I said, Atik, this is cannot, He said, 5 minutes only lah. But look, it's so dangerous. So look at the sim lim, look, and
Okay, but here's the thing. There are rules that pertain to handphone use while driving, still people do it. So wouldn't this then bring into question whether or not people are actually understanding why the rules are in place, that they've really internalized why the rules are in place, and then actually practice it based on their own sense of responsibility?
I think we're quite balanced, very educated society. In fact, after looking at the Sibling case, I have a suggestion to make. I used to be with Aware long ago, and it's there that I was involved in the legal side, and I met various other legal friends. And I want to suggest that, like the Sibling case, people are doing things, okay? There are even major court cases going on now involving organizations who don't understand the law enough, If Singaporeans want to, the government can cooperate with the population and conduct law courses, various, that's a guide in lawyers anyway, so they can come out and do some community work. Also medically, and I feel that, if you think we're over-regulated, think again. I took an internet course. I paid 10,000 thinking that I could do some internet marketing and stuff. After I took the course, it was totally useless, really, I'm speaking honestly, and my credit card, my PayPal was compromised. I did not take issue with the company. I take responsibility. Now, we all want to prepare for retirement. We want to do this, we want to do that. So I don't think we're over-regulated. I do feel the government could take the population one step ahead, about rules, regulations, about being savvy, about internet marketing, about...
Here's the thing though, Sarah, why not actually take responsibility for yourself and look for all these resources yourself? I mean, we live in an internet age, everything's available. Why does the government always have to do everything for us?
The government come in to open the door. How you want to walk in and do the deal is up to you. Now,
are the doors closed to you now, really? The doors to information are closed to you now, you're saying?
Yes, it is.
How so?
There are many advertisements in the newspapers, promising a lot of things. But, even as I hear, like Chief D'Souza, he has this My Wife program. Even I don't contribute, I don't call it because I felt that, it's something that is a very deep thing, you have to go through it. But, I hear people, and recently I met a retiree who sold his house. He has about 200,000 cash. He's talking about Forex. Oh boy, this is so dangerous.
Okay, so Sarah is a great believer of the government coming in to help with the education process as well. She feels the government needs to be the one to open the doors to education, public education, so on and so forth, and that we are not over-regulated. What do you think of all this? I mean, at the end of the day, I would say that the doors to information are open as well in Singapore. Yeah. We're all educated people. We all went to school. We should be able to exercise some personal discernment. And if something bad happens to us, okay, we learn. We learn from that mistake and we move on, perhaps. We all make mistakes. Bad things happen to good people all the time.
I
But
suppose-
should we rely on the government to help us solve our problems and always only look to government even for public education? I mean, of course, yes, the government has done a good job in terms of public education. But at which point are we going to say, okay, it's time for me to take charge of my life and decision making in my own life as well?
I think Sarah is looking at maybe reducing, the risks and the effects that, if people make mistakes, she's thinking of it in that sense.
What do you think? Call us on 669-11938. We'll talk to you right after news and sports. Stay with us. Is Singapore over-regulated? Do we, in fact, as Singaporeans, want more rules? We want more government involvement in seeing to even more of our day-to-day lives. Do call us on 669-11938. The shisha ban has been mentioned by several people. Some people feel that it's too extreme. The public education factor would have been enough. Public education on the dangers of shisha smoking would have been sufficient to let people make informed choices about their own health based on public information. Now, earlier, Sarah called in. She said we're not over-regulated, but we do. She says that we need the government to step in more when it comes to public education. Well, already there are organizations like CASE, like the Health Promotion Board. If we're talking about public education in terms of consumer rights, if you're talking about health issues, there's the Health Promotion Board. And perhaps at some point we should also say, it is my duty to seek out information instead of waiting for all these government departments or non-governmental organizations to come to me and to give me that information on a silver platter. What do you think? 669-11938. Do we have too many rules?
Hi, Mr. Tan.
Hi, morning, everybody.
Good morning. What do you think?
Yes, I'd just like to give my views on the role of regulation. I think regulation still has an important role to play, in which it sets the boundaries in which growth and development can be achieved in a more systematic manner. But I think as the society or the sector matures, I think regulation can be progressively lightened up. But there are three areas I think regulation should still be very tightly controlled, as far as areas of security and public interest is concerned. I think the regulation is still very much needed in those areas.
Those are very broad areas. When you talk about public interest, for instance, give me a few examples.
For example, when there are certain choices made by individuals that infringes on the well-being of others, I think that's an area where regulation needs to come in. For example, smoking. Many people argue that smoking is a personal choice. Why should the government come in to control my choice, my lifestyle? But if the choice that one individual is making is affecting the people around them, especially when it comes to health, I think that's an area where individual choice will fail, and public interest must be the overriding consideration.
Some might say that, okay, at least the government has rules on where you can smoke. It hasn't banned it completely. So a ban on shisha smoking, for instance, has been described by some as being quite extreme, because then you're leaving people with no choices whatsoever. Not even in a restricted area can they do this. What do you think of that? Is that taking rules and regulations a little too far?
You see, with the shisha smoking issue, again, he has to come down with personal choice. But again, there's a health hazard aspect that is involved here.
So why not just tell people, okay, these are the dangers of this particular activity, and then let people make informed choices about their own health?
Whereas as far as the government is concerned, it's just like a parental role. As parents, we are constantly having the struggle to decide how much freedom to give to our children.
Do you want to continue, Mr. Tan, as a citizen of Singapore, do you want to continue being seen as a child who needs a parent in the form of the government?
I think as the child grows and matures, just like a society, the child would... I think it is important to allow the child to mature and have certain areas where they can make a decision. But when it comes to the child's well-being, and when the child is not making the right choices, I think that is where the parent may have to make a hard decision to step in.
Okay, in which areas do you think we do not need regulation then?
You see, for example, I give an example. Over the years, in the area of arts, for example, in the past, the government used to come down very hard in terms of censorship or even banning. Now, I think they have. I have witnessed the gradual opening up in terms of introducing ratings and more information, where the viewers in general can still make informed choices and decide which are the films or publications they wish to consume. But again,
we have seen a recent ban on a film, though, recently. It still does happen to some degree.
Yes, the ban, of course, is another example where in the government's view, public interest is being impeached, and they have to step in to ban the film. But again, there's a give and take when it comes to regulation and freedom of expression.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Tan. Let's see what Justin has to say about this. Hi, Justin. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'd just like to share my view on this. I think for myself, I frame it into three areas for me. One is whether we're ready. Secondly is whether the government thinks we're ready. And then thirdly, it's when will we be ready. So, whether we're ready, we live in quite a different world when PAP came into power and, looked after us very well. Right now we have internet, where knowledge is freely shared, not just within Singapore, but, among countries as well. So are we ready? Our information is out there. We need to decipher the information, understand it for ourselves. Personally, I think I'm ready. I could do with lesser regulations. But then again, is the general population ready? Then comes the next question: does the government think we're ready? I think there's no right or wrong answer. I think like what Mr. Tan said, or what you said, like parents, we want to look after our children. The government wants to look after us. Ultimately, is how long as a nation can we sustain? We're quite a young state, but ultimately decisions will be how long can we sustain as a nation? How much can we grow? And how many generations can we cater for? And then,
you see, of course, certain regulations in any society are required. For instance, laws when it comes to criminal behavior, so on and so forth.
Yes.
But when it comes to small little things, like whether we have character and citizenship education in schools, for instance. I mean, this is something parents can take charge of, but we like it when the government steps in. To what extent do you think people should just make it clear that, look, we are ready to do this ourselves, and if the government continues to step into certain areas, because the government is well-meaning and wants to protect us, we might actually lose the capacity to make decisions for ourselves, to be discerning when it comes to various issues, whether it's public health issues or economic issues, so on and so forth. There's some very personal issues as well, that we might be left less resilient.
Right. So yeah, when it comes to that, I believe regulation is still necessary. The question is how much regulation. Whether we think we're ready, I think the citizens are trying to make their voice heard, in the past elections, trying to let the government know, hey, we're prepared to take on maybe a bit more responsibility. Ultimately, I believe regulation is still required in areas of property security and all that. But the government should try to let us have a bit more free hand in certain things, right? Like I think maybe the housing policies could be relaxed, the way we buy vehicles, the way they manage the taxi applications, for example. All those impedes creativity and growth. So those are the areas which could do with less regulation, my view.
Thank you very much, Justin. Carla joins us now. Hi, Carla. Good morning.
Hi, good morning to you. I think, Dorothy, I agree with you strongly. I think we need to develop our behavior on making decisions using discernment. I think this is lagging in our society. That is basically, I feel, it's a lot of lack of self-awareness of oneself, whereby lack of patience, like, for example, even the rules have came about that you cannot use handphone and all this stuff. We're still seeing people using it, but they have to take responsibility for whatever happens. So basically, I feel that self-awareness is more important in changing a person's behavior. And all this situation actually makes them to reflect and see what are the behaviors I need to change and become a better person, rather than depending on government for every single aspect of rules and regulation. I feel very kind of gripped with too many rules and regulations in Singapore. So sometimes you're not too sure which regulations I'm not abiding by.
And also, people may not have that sense of self-awareness if all they're doing is complying with rules and regulations to avoid being fined, for instance. The public education aspect might not be as effective if everyone's just caught up with rules. To what extent do you think, Carla, people actually realize that larger bureaucracies may not be efficient, and in order to administer rules, regulations and laws, it will actually cost more? Based on your experience with talking to people who are actually proponents of more rules and regulations, do you think they realize that?
That's the reason. They do not realize that. That's why they're just kind of falling back into the society of what's happening. And they don't realize and all these are actually kind of controlling and not able to develop their skills or behaviors. So basically, there's no awareness, and also they're rushing into, too many things are happening too fast, and they happen to rush into things and not realizing. And the most important part, lack of reflection on every aspect that we do. So reflection is very important in whatever we do. Even we are changing lane, we have to be very cautious that I need to put my signal in order to change lane, because there are many road users on the road and they have different perception of seeing things in a different angle. So, but all the simple things, people are not even thinking when you're doing things.
In which areas do you think we do not need so much regulation?
I think quite a number of things, like, for example, even for road users, with the so many restrictions we have, nowadays we see so many enforcement officers on the road because they are there because people are not doing things. So
you see, that's why, there is justification to have more enforcement officers on the roads, because people are just not doing things right.
Yeah, but how much are we going to keep on coming with rules and regulations to manage people? They have to wake up and see things in a different perspective and do something for themselves good, because by being self-realized what they're doing good for themselves and doing good to many other people.
So how do you think that message can get through? Because that would be a good substitute for even more rules and regulations, right? Actually getting people to take responsibility for their own safety on the roads, for instance.
So basically, they just need to think. Thinking is very important. We are a very highly educated society, but we're not using our reflection and thinking process to the appropriate uses in daily life. So basically, if they want to do something for their own family, they'll think 101 times for their own family. But if they go out of their family, nothing happens, because it's nothing belongs to them. So the kind of mindset they have is, it is something to do with my family, I'll do everything, all out to sing, reflect, do everything possible. So they need to treat everyone as like a family member, and how does it cause consequences to others. If they have this mindset, our society will change. But now we are being very self-centered, thinking about ourselves.
Thank you very much for that, Carla. I really appreciate it. Question is, how can we be encouraged to do the right thing without the rules and regulations in place?
And, well, as Carla said, we should think about each other a little bit more, and, well, maybe then things will be better off.
How to encourage that kind of mindset, you see? Because as even Sarah mentioned earlier, sometimes in spite of the rules and regulations, people are still breaking them. She talked about a bus driver who was using his handphone while driving. So my point really is that perhaps so many rules and regulations have desensitized us, and we're just not doing the right thing, some of us, in spite of rules and regulations.
We don't think.
What is the alternative, though? You, of course, can talk to us on official 938 Live. Do we have too much in terms of regulation in Singapore? What can we do to help ourselves? Talk to us on official 938 Live. Many thanks for your phone calls today as well.